So today I'm preparing for my colonoscopy tomorrow. So excited.
Says what he wants, but he's so contradicted. He's a man of conviction, but he's never been convicted.
Welcome to the show. My name is Matthew Gosson. I'm going to be your interlocutor. Is that the correct usage of the word? I don't know. I think so. Anyway, I'm having a colonoscopy tomorrow. Super excited about that. I'm sure you all would like to hear the details. Perhaps see the video. This can be arranged, but most likely won't be. So today we're going to have Dave Edison on the show. I met Dave back at the Kennen Ivory Wayans show. He was the post supervisor, and we've stayed in contact since. Turns out he opened for Leno back in the day. Was around with the likes of Adam Sandler, Jerry Seinfeld, Paul Reiser, Chris Rock. He hung with all those guys back in the day, and we have a nice conversation about all kinds of stuff. And it was so great to see Dave. And here's the interview. Check it out. All right, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am here with Dave Edison. Do you like to go by?
As am I.
Are you? Do you like? You like Dave as opposed to David, right?
Yeah. No, it's psychological issue. I'm learning to deal with it.
So, as you can tell, Dave is a funny guy.
Not from that.
Well, I can. That made me laugh.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah.
Easy touch.
Yeah, I am an easy touch. We met on the Kennen Ivory Wayans show.
1997.
Oh man, that was a fun few months, wasn't it? Or weeks for
yeah,
some.
we have a different definition of fun.
Well, yeah, it was. It definitely was the trenches.
Well, I was there for about 10 weeks, and only a couple of weeks into the actual show, I was one of the last of the first wave of firings.
Right.
I mean, they couldn't fire you. You were indispensable.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, that was a crazy time.
I call it the trenches. I felt like that was like the Battle of the Somme. Like I came out of that just like shell shocked and was like, okay, I see what editing can be, and all right, I'll be okay.
Well, I watched you work. You were the first time I saw nonlinear editing really happening.
Oh yeah.
And there was a little bit at KCAL. They had a system called the what was that called? The IMAX Turbo Cube, iMix Turbo Cube. $100,000 system where you couldn't leave anything in the system because it didn't have enough storage space. You had to digitize it every time. But you were wailing on the Avid, and I go, well, that's an interesting thing, because I had done some paper editing when I was the post-production supervisor on a show called the Marilyn Kagan Show, which was a local talk show on Channel 9 here. Uh-huh. And one of the editors there hired me a couple of years after, which started my editing career, because the notes always worked. I had to do paper edits for the editors and in and out points and getting it to match, and we even had commercial breaks at specific times, so they had to hit, and it always worked. The timing always worked, the edits always worked. So he called me up, this was after Kennen, called me up and said, do you want a job in editing? And I said, yes, sir. And so we had a long friendship, and he was a great guy who just very recently died after a long battle with cancer.
Oh,
so,
man.
You got your, mentors, but he was a really good person, a really good guy to know, and started me off in editing. So I owe him a lot, as do I you, because you were, you were just great to watch.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, really fast on the keyboard. And I got really great on the Avid myself for a while, and then I
jumped over to Adobe.
Well, I did. I actually got a gig that was working on Final Cut Pro 7.
Oh, right.
And then that went away, and they changed to Final Cut X, which does a lot of great things. Unfortunately, editing isn't one of them. But some people like it. My grandma used to say that's why they make chocolate and vanilla.
Yeah.
Something for everyone. But yeah, so I've become a Premiere guy, and I'm working on that now. But back to Kennen.
Yes.
Do you remember this? They brought in a whiteboard and had it mounted on the wall of your editing bay. So we were going to keep track of every change that was going on so that the management would know where we were.
Yes, yes.
Of course, the management never stopped by. And we knew what was going on. I knew where the changes were. You knew where the changes were. They just wanted the tape delivered.
Yeah.
So one day I remember, here's your tape. That's been delivered. And as I'm walking away, I hear the management saying to me, well, at least that system's working. No, we're not using that system. We ignored that system from day one.
We just kept working.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories from Kennen was, and I won't say the name of the producer because I don't remember it. But the guy, the top guy, asked me to bring him a tape of a piece that we'd done in some of the pre-shows, test shows, and it was shot on high 8 videotape.
Right.
And he just wanted to see if it was adequate to use on air.
Right.
So I brought him the tape, big beta cam tape.
Right.
Brought it to his office, and I'm handing it to him. He says, "Oh, I don't have a beta machine here. Can you bring me a VHS dub?" So I said, "Let me be clear. You want to see if the high 8 video is good enough for air by watching a VHS dub?" And he said yes, and I brought him the VHS dub, and I knew what I was dealing with.
Right. And he watched it and he goes, gosh, I don't know, the quality, not so good.
But, I met great people. I remember the day I got fired, somebody called me into to their office. It's the only job I've ever been fired from.
Really?
Called me into her office and said, close the door, sit down. I said, what happened? I said, I don't know. I said, well, if they fired you, how long am I going to last? And, well, not long if you're lucky, but as it turned out, nobody lasted that long because the show was off by, it started August 4th of 97 and it was off by what, January, February?
The beginning of February, we got the axe.
98.
Yeah.
So, things come and go. Hooray for Hollywood. Welcome to showbiz.
I worked with Wanda Sykes, I remember.
Yeah.
She was a writer.
Right.
And
right.
she came and worked with me. She was cool.
Yeah.
And Michael Anthony. There was some interesting characters on that show. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, nonstop.
Yeah,
intense, long days. We would hit the satellite. I mean, there were times when I raced that tape from your editing bay into the VTR room, and they didn't even do the slate, the color bars, the countdown. They queued it up, and at I guess it was 7 hour time,
right,
they just hit that play button without anything, and the affiliates were going, it's here. Where did it come from? We had no warning, but we were on the air. And then that was just the first half of the show. They were still editing the second half hour, and got it in on time.
And they wonder why it didn't last very long.
Well, that was one of the symptoms. But yeah, it was. Look, it had issues. It wasn't lightning in a bottle. It was fun enough, but not quite right.
There was a lot of money being hemorrhaged, I remember, and I don't think Fox was very happy.
When we went to air, he said, take all that pre-show stuff, the test shows we did, just reuse those tapes. We're not going to need those. We'll save some money. Just reuse them. Calls me into his office a couple of weeks into, I wasn't there for more than a couple of weeks, but I guess a couple of days into the show, and said, remember that piece that we did in the test show? You didn't reuse that tape yet, did you? I said, no, it's on a shelf. I didn't reuse any of those tapes. Of course I didn't get it. You don't get rid of tapes like that just because somebody says get rid of the tapes.
Right.
So I brought it to them, and there it was. They put it on the air.
Man. After that, you kept editing?
Yeah, I got into editing and worked for this fellow, Ramon Alfonso. I want to say his name, great guy. He had an editing room of his own, and so I worked for him. We did some projects for a company originally called the Recovery Network, and they would do shows like essentially 12-step meetings.
Oh, so yeah, there was no drinking on the job on this particular show.
No. There could have been. They didn't know. We were just the editing room.
Sure.
But yes, I'm in my 60s. I've never been drunk. I've never been high, and that has got to change. But
we can change that, dude, in the next 20 minutes if you want.
Keep listening.
Okay.
So we just shows like that little hour-long reality shows, non-scripted shows, and just went on with him and just ended up doing. I did a show in 2011, 2012 that got canceled, and then won the Daytime Emmy, which is not generally the order you want to do that in. There's a show called Last Shot with Judge Gunn, which was a courtroom reality show,
Right.
and just a little show out of I don't know, Arkansas or somewhere. This woman had a drug court and basically kept people out of jail, giving them a last chance, hence the name Last Shot. And she actually saved a bunch of lives.
Wow.
So that was kind of a good thing to be involved in.
Definitely.
And now I've been working on this project for ages now called Space Command.
Oh, Space Command.
You know about Space
I
Command.
do.
Have you seen the pilot?
I have. It's very good.
Yeah, it's not bad. We're actually getting ready to recording now in late 2019. You folks in the future, we did this back in late 2019. We're about getting ready to release the first full hour of the pilot. The version you saw was a little bit shy, probably about 50 minutes. And it stars Doug Jones from The Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth and Star Trek Discovery.
Right.
And Robert Picardo, Mira Furlan, Bill Mumy, sci-fi names. Bruce Boxleitner's in it, Mike Harney from Orange is the New Black. And it's an independent sci-fi project, pilot that we're trying to get going into a series.
And this is written and directed by
Mark Scott Zekri.
Mark, and Elaine is involved as well.
Elaine co-wrote it and is directing it as well. And Mark is the author of the Twilight Zone Companion, which he wrote he was a kid in his early 20s, and he interviewed tons of people from the Twilight Zone. And just amazing, just analyzing each episode, and it's been in print since then. In fact, a new edition just came out with video extras and links, and one of the greatest shows of all time, and that's the book about it. He's the world expert on the Twilight Zone, among other things.
That's a great thing to be an expert on. That was such a groundbreaking, mind-boggling series. It was so good. People still talk about that today.
There've been four versions, including the original. Well, 5 versions, including the movie. So yeah, but nothing really compares to the original.
So cool. Yeah, Mark runs this group called The Table.
Yeah, we reconnected.
Yes. I came out of Tonight Show, fogginess, and you said, "Hey, come check out this group." And it's a very cool people the people in the industry that support each other. There's actors, technicians, graphic people, people from all throughout production that are in each other's stuff, help each other out, and it's a cool group. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Form relationships, form partnerships.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you contact Matt, he can give you details.
I sure can, yeah. Oh, and speaking of sci-fi people, I don't know, I had an episode recently with Richard Hurd, who's this actor who he's the sci-fi people know him well from V and some Star Trek spin-offs that he's been in.
Yeah, I haven't heard that episode yet, but by the time you people hear this episode, I will have heard that episode.
Yeah, he was great. He sat here and blast from the past. I mean, he's a real old world guy, and he was born in, I think, 1932, and just a really interesting guy. Let's talk about you doing stand-up comedy.
That's what I did starting. I got out of college and said, let's do this. A buddy of mine, during my last year in college, a friend said, we got for their rock and roll band. They had one of them rock and roll bands that the kids had back then.
Right.
Said, hey, why don't you open for us? It'll be great. Be as dirty as you want, be as crazy as you want. It's a rock show.
Uh-huh.
So we put together pretty bizarre, 10 minutes or so, 20 minutes, and got there, and all we could see in front of the lights in the open-air housing development was about 20 kids right in the front. And we were, we were out there with this little act that we did, and
how'd it go over?
The kids loved it. I couldn't see anybody else, but about 10 minutes into it, the guy who asked us to do the opening was by the side of the stage saying, "Cut it! The parents are complaining."
You said I could be as dirty as I want.
Yeah. I have a tape of that somewhere.
Oh, man.
So
we can put that on the website if you want, if you're willing.
well, that's the key if I want. So I went on from that. We did a few bits together for the next, I don't know, 8-10 months. But he had to have a real life. He had to get a job. So when I graduated from college, I said, well, I'll try it as a solo. And did a couple of spots and did a audition I did the day Groucho died. I pulled a number at the comic strip in New York for my first audition. So not exactly a passing of the torch.
Uh-huh.
But so I go on there and I do about 12 auditions and I keep pulling late numbers. And, you can't do much with 2 people left. Maybe there's nobody left by the time your number comes up. And you only got 5 minutes anyway. But I finally, about 12 numbers later, pulled number 2. So in November, I go up and I do a really good spot, Monday night at the comic strip, good crowd. And in those days, the MC was the guy who passed you or didn't pass you. They shortly thereafter changed that to the management would decide. But the MC watched and he said, okay, Dave, good spot. That's a pass. Start hanging out. You're, essentially, you passed the audition. You're a member of the club. And that guy, what happened to him? He was Jerry Seinfeld. That was his name. Yes,
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So back in the day, so all those guys were there. Chris Rock was part of the group. Adam Sandler, Colin Quinn, Paul Reiser, Carol Leifer, Jim Brogan. The names are just goes on. But yeah, all those guys. I mean, Rock was great even early on, but he didn't quite get it yet. I remember seeing Rock. Chris is just such a nice guy, and he went on and he was strolling back and forth, doing his lines, really low key, and then one day he shifted gears, and he started pacing the stage, and he started striding the stage, and he started really delivering the lines and hitting the points, and it's an act. You suddenly go, oh, that's right, I got to do an act, and he suddenly knew how to do it, and he hasn't looked back. He hasn't looked back. So, but yeah, I know a few guys like that, and I was always trying to find the right attitude, and I did well. I did okay. I emceed a lot, and I was on the road a lot, and I did the thing for 13 years nonstop, and
that's great.
And I was, I was fine. But my act dealt a lot in technology, and really, you really have to deal with human emotions and relationships, and even if it's with your pets, there's some kind of emotion, some kind of relationship there. And that wasn't exactly my strong point. So I dealt in technology, and it was okay. I did well. There was some relationship stuff there. But eventually, this job came up on this TV show, and I said, well, I'll try that. I had done some little videos, tape-to-tape editing for a friend's pitch of a game show.
Uh-huh.
And the game show didn't go, but when they got a job in this talk show, they called me up and said, we need somebody to do field pieces. Why don't you come on in and talk to them? So I went in with my little bag of tapes, and I got the gig. Nice. And that lasted a year and a half. The woman who, until that show ended, one of the women on the show ended up on Kennen. She called me in. I met you, and here we are today.
Didn't you work with Leno as well, too? Wasn't he around? Or
I opened for Leno.
There you go.
For a weekend at Rascals in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was great. Just watching him, he's a master.
Yeah.
You're just watching him, oh, yeah, that's how you do it. Just craft it every moment. And that's like Seinfeld. So you talk about an attitude, or I talked about it. Somebody around here talked about an attitude. Seinfeld, you look at him, he's just an easygoing guy on stage. But if you pick that apart, there's so much precision in that act. So
yeah, he did all right for himself.
Yeah, didn't do too bad. I mean, Larry David was a guy working at Catch a Rising Star, often going on late at night, and the audience didn't always get him.
Sure.
And the comics would always flood in to watch him because we loved him.
Yeah.
And he and Jerry, the story goes, and particulars might be a little off, but it's generally that Jerry was offered this 4-show series, this test at NBC, and was trying to figure out what the show was going to be about. And he and Larry were at the little fruit stand across the street from Catch a Rising Star, chatting about this and joking about this. And he said, no, this is what the show should be about, just little everyday things. And they had the right sensibility to work together, and magic and billions happened.
Yeah, quite a run, man. That was it 9 seasons
Of Seinfeld, yeah.
Yeah, 9 seasons.
And then Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's still going.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are funny.
Yeah, so I got this job in this talk show, and then stand-up slowly went away. In 1999, I did my last paid spot. I've done a couple of spots since then for friends, but yeah, and plus I met this girl. I know you've met this girl. I've met this this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I'd rather be spending time with her than going to some club in Oklahoma that the last time they had me booked there, I get there on Tuesday after buying a ticket, and they say, oh, didn't anybody tell you we've gone to weekends only? Or
Wow.
or clubs where you buy your non-refundable ticket and the club closes beforehand. So, you know what? I think I'm good staying in L.A. It's warm here anyways. I'm not going to Toronto in the winter.
Well, now that I've been married so long, after the age of 50, I started to try stand-up, and I guess because now I want to get out of the house. But
Well, you've been impressive for the couple of spots that I've seen on the internets there.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you're very low key, but you can get away with it. I mean, some people can. So, like, for example, Rodney, late Rodney Dangerfield. There's an album. It may even be a bootleg album of a bootleg tape that someone put out. But there's an album of him before stardom,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you, I don't get no respect at all. It's very low key. But once he put the key in the ignition and started the car, he turned it into, I'll tell you, I don't get no respect. And he became a star because his attitude changed, his performance changed, his character changed.
Perhaps drug use began.
There could be some of that. That was also a reason that I wasn't destined for comedy on the road. I wasn't the guy who went out and partied and did drugs
But look at Leno. Same. That guy hasn't done anything.
and Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Focus on the act. Do your work. I mean, it's a job. If it's a career, if you're going to take it seriously, take it seriously.
Yeah. If you can party a little bit and it doesn't, take you out, then sure, enjoy yourself. But it's not for everybody. Some people are all in.
So what's in the future for you in comedy?
I have to drag my ass out and do some open mics. That's what I do. Last time I saw Leno, he was like, "Why haven't you? What are you doing? Yeah, TikTok, I mean, you can buy a lot of nice stuff with the comic money. Look around." And I'm like, yeah.
Were you in the garage at the time?
Yes.
Yeah. Where is your desire level?
Oh gosh, I mean, I don't know. I would love to be able to go up and be able to build on my 5 minutes and make it a solid 20 and be able to take that anywhere and be comfortable with it and maybe learn to do some crowd work. And if I know where I'm going, if I have a grasp on like my material and I know that I can jump from one to the other safely and I know these are solid jokes, I'm fine. But if I'm out there like lost and get tripped up by some heckler or
You're an editor.
Yeah.
So you just have to be able to transfer that skill from the keyboard to the stage.
Yeah, just to know economy of words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will go and do some open mics just to see if it works in other places. And I need a road dog. I need somebody to go, like, let's go, I'll go with you type of thing.
Sure. Yeah, team up with somebody.
Yeah, just like when you do a workout plan or something, you know, if you say we're going to hike every day, and if you could just do it by yourself, you may or may not come up with an excuse. But if you know somebody's going to show up there at 8:00, you get your ass up and you're there.
Accountability partner.
Yes, exactly.
So well, good luck. If you need an audience, let me know.
Thank you.
Something you started to mention before.
Please.
Just before I got this talk show gig, somebody offered me something else, and I said, well, I'll look into that. I figured, okay, if this goes, I'll do it for a year. I'll get off the road a little bit. It'll be a backup plan. And I end up with a job at Universal Studios Hollywood as Groucho Marx.
Yes.
And so I spent, I thought it was going to be a year. I was there for 18 and a half years until they canceled the character at the end of 2011. That was great. It was great that they canceled it because it was it was a lot of fun, but it was just a classic dead end. I mean, it was an albatross. It was a fun, great albatross, but it was an albatross. So when that ended, I said, all right, well, let's get serious. Let's get to work here. But I'll tell you one moment.
Please.
This was, I'll remember this for as long as I can remember, which is not going to be forever. I'm working the exits, and I'm saying goodnight to people, and thanks for stopping by, Scram Beat It, And the crowd parts down the path, and I do a double take, and then the crowd parts again, and about 30 feet away is Stephen Hawking with his entourage. And I have maybe 3 seconds to think of something to say. And our eyes meet. And when he gets close enough to hear me, I say, well, so much for me being the smartest man here.
That's great.
And the corner of his mouth curled just a little bit. And I'm going to take that as a laugh from the smartest guy in the world.
Oh, yeah. I'd say that's for sure a laugh.
Yeah. So
good story. That's cool.
It had its moments. And I met a lot of great people there, who's friends still. So it's an interesting gig.
I bet. Yeah, I ran into you there once with my wife, I remember. I was like, this is Dave. I worked with him on Kennen, you remember?
He looks different somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, that did the costume evolve over the years?
Pretty much the standard morning coat, the tux with tails kind of look. But I had during the spring, during graduation season, I had them give me a cap and gown like in horse feathers. And, kids didn't know who Groucho was.
No.
Or a few of them did, but would walk up to me and got the round glasses. I've got a cap and gown on. And kids were like, are you Harry Potter?
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
that's right. I'm Harry Potter. We're all grown up. Something went horribly wrong.
The youth of today.
What are you going to learn them? Can't learn them nothing.
So
editing.
Yeah. So, yeah, the editing has become less and less with me. I mean, I don't know why. It's just sort of peeled off. I'm not getting calls for it anymore. A few of my friends who now know I'm looking are like, okay, I'm on the lookout for you if I hear of anything. But
it's strange, isn't it? Because we've got 500 scripted drama comedy shows on streaming and broadcast. You'd think they need to put those together somehow.
You'd think. Yeah.
But they're shorter seasons, of course. You've got 8, 10, 12 episodes in a season. That's half of a network season.
Still, the kids are doing it for half the price.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of production. If you can shoot a film on your iPhone, then you've got low budget production, and low budget means everybody's low budget. So it's a little tough. I'm at the point of saying, well, let's see, how am I going to be able to afford to get old? It's it's an issue. So you just gotta keep working. I even tried my writing a book. You know about my book.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Okay. Let's talk about it since I brought it up. I mean, it's something. I tried something else.
It's a religious book, if you will.
Well, not exactly. It's a it's a picture book for grown-ups. I was driving along and I came up with this phrase, and I started expanding on it. And before too many drives, I ended up with a poem. And I spoke to a couple of artist friends, one then the other. Both of them wanted to illustrate it. Both of them fell through. They were busy. They had lives. So I said, you know what? I know Photoshop. I'm not an artist, but let me try to put something together, see if it works for this project. And turns out it did.
Yeah.
And so I published a book on a Kindle Direct Publishing. So it's self-published. It's on Amazon, and it's called The Man with the List. And it's a picture book for.
Break it out.
Now I have to read this off the cover because I don't actually remember all these words.
I'll put the link on the website, and people can check it out, the Amazon link. Yeah.
Cool, that's great. A picture book for grown-ups, skeptics, freethinkers, realists, doubters, questioners, agnostics, atheists, or anyone who can't believe in the unbelievable. And actually, if you go to YouTube, I've actually read the entire piece and given it a little bit of animation. So you get a little bit of music, so you can...
I'll put that link up as well, The Man with the List.
Yeah, you can hear me read it, or you can read it yourself. The opening page is that there's a man in the sky who's making a list of all the things that don't really exist. And it goes on from there. So if you want to... It's not just a man in the sky. It's subterranean alien reptilians. It's Bigfoot, it's monsters, it's fortune tellers, it's ghosts, it's everything that doesn't really exist, but people do believe in.
It's a good read, for sure.
Oh, thanks.
Yep.
I'm reasonably proud of it.
You should be.
Thank you.
So, Dave, what else you got going on?
Well, let's see. There's a show that's on Amazon. You can find that on Amazon Prime, called Vintage America with Ginger.
Tell me about that.
Well, Ginger Pauly is somebody I actually know from Universal. And she's the vintage girl. She loves all kinds of antiques and Americana. And so she and her friend Willow put together a series. We've only got 3 episodes so far, but they're up on Amazon. We're looking to do more. And she'll take you around for about 22 minutes and show you vintage LA, or the second episode is how to renovate your vintage home. And the third episode is actually kind of cool. It's about vaudeville. So, and they're all kind of cool, actually. So we're hoping to do more of those.
Very cool.
I mean, stuff has happened over the years that it just doesn't go. Like we did a show a few years back called Mystic Cosmic Patrol. And we, again, only had 3 episodes of it. I only actually finished 2. And it's kind of a Power Rangers parody. And you can find it online at this point. But kind of a Power Rangers parody. And just the team that just couldn't quite make it. Not quite the A-team of Universe Defenders.
The
Mystic Cosmic Patrol.
Okay.
And so, some things you work on that's great. And you go, oh, this is a no-brainer. This has got to go. And it doesn't. So find the next thing.
Very cool. Interesting. Well, Dave, I appreciate you making the schlep out here to Van Nuys.
Always good to see you.
For sure.
Always good to have a chat.
I'm going to come to the table and have a Frisco burger and listen to people's stories in the near future. So.
And I'm going to look forward to hearing more of your stand-up and hearing that you got an editing gig. Hell, if Space Command or something else gets launched, I'm suspecting we're going to need editors.
Excellent. Inshallah. That would be great.
We'll see. No promises, folks, but we'll see.
I will not hold you to it.
I'm not holding them to it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Matt.
That was David Edison with the ID. Thank you, Dave, for coming over. It was great seeing you. And next week, you want to tune in for Stuttering John Melendez. He makes an appearance, and we talk about all kinds of things. Definitely don't want to miss this one. There were beers had, and there may have been some legal marijuana consumed. That's all I'm going to say. manofconvictionpodcast.com, or email me at manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com.